Hello and welcome back once again. Today we're going to talk about the anatomy of a self-hosted application. Last time we talked about self-hosting host preparation. We noted some important supporting applications to install on a server instance where you would like to self-host. We mentioned that a LAMP stack is a prerequisite to the installation of many applications. And in the Replace Virtual Machines with LXC LXD Containers video, we saw how containers are much more efficient than virtual machines or dedicated servers. Another great aspect of containers is the ability to isolate applications from one another, so you don't have to worry about running into ports or conflicting addresses. So what are the pieces of the puzzle? Self-hosted applications always have a web component, hosted either via Apache, Nginx, or Caddy web servers are the most common. Most every web server uses PHP, which stands for PHP Hypertext Preprocessor. Many applications use a database, and MySQL and MariaDB are the most common. There are others like MongoDB, and the list is almost endless. Most applications use SSL, and certbot is commonly used to grant certificates from Let's Encrypt. So, there's an application called FileRun. FileRun is a self-hosted replacement for Google Drive. FileRun leverages a LAMP stack, which we learned about in the self-hosting host preparation video, so I'm not going to repeat that in this video. FileRun also uses PHP in the LAMP stack as a key component. And you can read about FileRun over on filerun.com. So let's install FileRun and see how this works out. So here's the filerun.com website, and it gives a lot of information about the product. It's pretty polished looking. I've used a lot of these file transfer type products, but I think that what really counts here is the fact that we're going to go off and see what the technique is to install one of these. And this is going to be a real generalized approach. So I have a terminal here, and I'm going to SSH over to this LXC container I've created. And this LXC container, as I mentioned earlier, has already got a LAMP stack installed in it from that previous video. So I'm logged into this thing, and I've got a LAMP stack on this. Now what we're going to do is we are going to go off and do the installation process that the authors of the program specify. First of all, they said, make sure and use Ubuntu 2004 instance, which I've done here, as you can see. And so the first thing, since I already have my LAMP stack installed, and I'm going to go ahead and jump into MySQL. So we're going to sudo over to MySQL, and we're logged into MySQL. And so I want to, first of all, create a database called FileRun, because that's the name of the product. A lot of times they'll make the database equivalent to the name of their product. And then I'm going to create a user on that SQL instance that is going to be called FileRun also. And I'm creating a very cryptic password of testing123. The next thing I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to grant all privileges on that database to that particular user. And now what I'm going to do is a flush privileges command, which basically writes out the changes to the tables in the database. And then I'm going to go ahead and exit MySQL. So we already have a LAMP stack in here, but we're going to need to install some additional PHP components. And it's not common, it's not uncommon, I should say, that you wouldn't have to install additional components as dependencies for an app. So these are the dependencies that the author specified on the website, and I'm installing those dependencies right now. Okay, the dependencies have completed installation due to the magic of video. And now the next thing we're going to go do is we are going to go get a product that is called ioncube. It's one of the dependencies, one of the other dependencies that they have. So I'm doing a sudo wget on it, and I've got it. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to unpack that application. And I've done that. And the next thing I am going to do is go into text editor. Nano's my favorite. And I am going to place a extension into this ioncube initialization file. And there's the extension that belongs in here. And I'm going to go ahead and save and exit the editor. And then I'm going to edit create actually and edit a initialization file for FileRun. So in this initialization file, I need to have quite a few lines, and I'll try to put these commands into the notes at the end of the video. That way you can go off and do this. So there's everything I need in this file, and I'm going to go ahead and save that initialization file. The next thing I'm going to do is, since I added all those PHP modules, I'm going to have to restart Apache. So I use the systemctl restart Apache. And the reason I need to do that is so that it can take account for those PHP modules. And then I'm going to go into the HTML location for Apache. And you can see there's an index.html. Well, I'm going to go ahead and do a remove on this index.html because it's no longer needed. Okay, permission denied. Let's try to do a sudo on that. Okay, so now the next thing I want to do is I want to get into that web area the latest iteration of the FileRun code. And now I want to install unzip because I probably do not have unzip installed. And I did not. So it's installing unzip. And then I'm going to unzip the FileRun zip file that we just downloaded with the wget. And then I'm going to change ownership of that file directory to be owned by the web owner, which is www-data. So now I've done everything that I need to do as far as the installation is concerned. The next step is we have to head off to a web browser. So at this point, I want to go off and go to the address of my system because that's where the Apache web browser is running. And you'll notice it's at 192.168.80.110. Your address will be different. This is just the address of the Lexi container that I did the install on. you come to this page and it's an installation page. So you want to click next here. There's this particular note that's down here is a standard note, and they say you should expect it to look like this, so that's good. And then we're pointing to localhost for our MySQL, which is fine. That's what we want. And the database name is going to be FileRun because that's what we set up. And then the SQL user is also FileRun because that's what we set up. And then the super secret password I had here was testing123. So I'm going to put that in. And there's nothing in the database, so I don't have to worry about destroying it because it's a brand new database. And I click next. So now it says setting up database. Okay, once the installation is completed, you'll come to the screen saying the installation is all done. It will give you a username and it will give you a password. The username will be super user and the password will be some set of characters which you want to make note of. You can't get it back, so you want to make sure and make a copy of that. So I think I can remember this. No, actually I wrote it down. So we'll click next. And now it says we're going to log into super user and it wants to know what the password is. And this is where I paste that password in that I made a note of. So I'm logging in, and now we're logged in. It says to start, configure the super user account with the home folder. Okay. And it says you'll find the option under the permissions tab. So I'm going to go ahead and change the username to Scott. Actually, the name to Scott, and then the username I'll change to Scott, and then I'll change the password to testing123 since I know that that's really a secure password. Not. And then I'll go ahead and click Save Changes. And so it says user successfully update. There was an error encountered while trying to load the data from the server. The reason the error occurred is because we have to repaint the screen here, and it's going to force us to log back in. So I'm typing in Scott. I'm typing in testing123, and it says to start, go configure the super user account with a home folder. So I have to go configure this with a home folder. Okay, we want to go under the permissions tab next. And we want to go ahead and specify a path. And so I'm going to go ahead and say that the path is going to be /FileRun, because FileRun is going to be, that'll be at the top level of the file structure, and it's a directory called FileRun. So I say create folder now. And of course it fails, and the reason that it fails is because we didn't have any privilege to do that. So what we want to do is we want to go ahead and say, come back to the terminal and do a sudo make-dir /FileRun. And then what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to do a change owner. Let's do a sudo change owner www-data because that's what the PHP code is using into /FileRun. Okay, so now we've created our folder down there. Now if I say check the path, that folder, it says the path is valid because the path is created and the path is owned correctly. So then what I'll do is I'll say save changes. Okay. So now I can get out of the admin part of this program because I don't need it right now anymore. I can come up here and repaint this screen. And the main screen now shows that there's files, collections, all this kind of thing. So if I click on My Files, I can go ahead and go grab a file. And let's just say that we're going to grab a part of a current or a part of a previous video. And I'm going to go ahead and just drag and drop it in here. And there you go. It's part of a file from my LexD video. And it's stored up here. At this point, you can download it. You can share it to somebody with a web link or share it with other users, because you can create other user accounts on FileRun and be able to do those types of things. And then also we could do a preview of it. And there's a preview. So window. Our test LexC. So that was an old video, but we're just going to jump back. And there we go. And so that's pretty much it for how you install FileRun as far as the local part of the app is concerned. So the last thing that we want to do in all of this is we want to make our FileRun instance web aware and add SSL to it. So I like to use Nginx Proxy Manager to do this. And if you're looking for a great video on Nginx Proxy Manager, go over to Brian's channel over at awesomeopensource.com, and he has great videos on using Nginx. Nginx is a Docker container that does Nginx reverse proxy. I've talked about it in some of my other videos. In any event, what we'll do here is I have gone out in advance and I have, I'm going to say create a proxy host, and I'm going to say create a proxy host on FileRun.Scotti-BYTE.com, and I am going to say point that to my 192.168.80.110 address and port 80, and I'm going to go ahead and say that I want to block common exploits and give me WebSockets. I don't think it uses WebSockets, but it doesn't hurt to do that. Go over to SSL. I'll go ahead and say, yeah, request a new certificate, and I agree to the terms of service. So what that's going to do is it's going to go out to Let's Encrypt. It's going to grant me an SSL self-signed certificate, and then Nginx Proxy Manager is going to manage that. If I look at the FileRun entry here in Nginx Proxy Manager, go over to SSL. I can now set force SSL. You can't while you're creating the certificate. And I do a save. So now if I open another window here and I say FileRun.Scotti-BYTE.com, it's going to go over here, and actually I had previously logged into it. What it's really going to do from the web is it's going to present you with this kind of a login. I'm going to type Scott, my super secret password of testing 123, and it logs in, and there's the shared file that I had put up there before. And if I right click on it now and I say I want to share this with a web link, it will come up and give me a FileRun.Scotti-BYTE.com along with everything else. And it now is using my domain, and you can see with the lock up here, it's now using SSL. So, in summary, the point of this was not to learn how to install FileRun per se. FileRun is a typical example of using an application that requires a LAMP stack and seeing what dependencies are going to be required to install a typical self-hosted application on either a bare metal server, a virtual machine, or a LexC or LexD container. At the end of the installation, we used Nginx Proxy Manager to make the application hosted to the internet with a Let's Encrypt self-signed certificate. So obviously, a lot of these applications will guide you into changing the web configuration of the individual server and giving it a signed certificate at that point in time. But that's one of the things that Nginx Reverse Proxy Manager does for you. And Brian has done some terrific videos again off on awesome open source, and he has a really great YouTube channel, and I encourage you to go over and see what he's done and how he talks about NPM also, in addition to the things I've said in my videos. Anyway, if you made it to this point, thank you, and please subscribe and like, and we'll see you next time.